Hello and welcome to another episode of Laptop Retrospective, and today I am bringing you probably the strangest keyboard that I have ever used. So this is a keyboard made by G Heavy Industries, and I don't know how you could not love that name. And this is their Gergo Plex Heavy QMK programmable keyboard. Now, this has been a learning experience in pretty much every conceivable way for me, because this is my first truly open source programmable keyboard that I've ever owned. And I have to say, I absolutely love the idea of being able to program not only individual key presses, but key combinations. So if there's something that I want to map, I don't need to buy a keyboard with dedicated programmable keys. Any key can be programmable. And I think that that's one of the really cool factors. Now, the astute among you will notice that this is not a full-sized keyboard in any stretch of the imagination. It doesn't have a numpad, it doesn't have a function row, it doesn't have enough keys in front of you to necessarily press every single key on a standard keyboard with a single key press. So I will tell you up front, there is a learning curve. I will not sugarcoat that. This is something that, like anything that's new and quirky, you will need to spend some time learning how to use. And I'll also be the first to admit that I would certainly not call myself a master of this keyboard yet. But before we go into actually using the keyboard itself, let's talk about what the keyboard physically is. What we have here is probably, like, in terms of build quality, it's absolutely incredible. The heavy version means that these are actually laser cut steel plates that are sandwiching the board that actually has all the switches and controls. That is an additional option, but I gotta say it adds some pretty hefty weight to it, and it just feels great. So both halves together are about 800 grams, so it's not super light, but at the same time, this isn't gonna be moving around on your desk as you're using it either, and that's more of what my concern was. In terms of the keycaps, this is where things get really, really cool. If your only experience with keycaps are essentially cherry switches, welcome to a whole new world of precision keyboard keycaps and switches. From what I understand, these are G-Chock MBK caps, and they have 20-gram springs in them. So what that means is that it's just 20 grams. That's all you need to press one of these keys. And unlike a lot of traditional mechanical and membrane keyboards where you have some resistance and then the key actuates, it's a steady, constant press of force from the beginning of key travel all the way to where it bottoms out. And that is a phenomenally good feeling. You really have to use it to understand how good that feels. And especially over time when you're not constantly having to overcome that resistance, before the key does its job. It's a small detail, but my goodness, it's great. Every detail from the switches to these keycaps was pretty much designed with the comfort of the finger and the longevity of the experience. And if I could get any keyboard I wanted in any switch combination I wanted, this would be an incredible contender for my choice. Like, I am so impressed. The last thing I'll mention about the hardware is that we do have essentially a serial 3.5 millimeter, not quite headphone style jack that connects the two halves of the keyboard together, and then a mini USB on the right hand side that connects it via USB port to your computer. And it works with everything. I've used it on Mac, Windows, Linux. Nothing has any issue reading it. And then you can get the software and you can flash all sorts of custom firmware or software to the keyboard itself to customize these keycaps and key presses to whatever it is that you want. And that's why they're not labeled. Let's segue into my experience with this keyboard. I have not really ever typed on an ergonomic keyboard for any length of time, and I've never used a keyboard that didn't have pictograms of what I was actually pressing. I also have never used a keyboard that didn't have on the F and J keys the little bump. I learned to touch type based off of finding those home row keys, so I can type in the dark. I don't need to see the keyboard, but I didn't have those bumps. So what you'll notice is on these keys, what I have gone and done is actually taken a piece of paper clip And what I actually did is I took a pair of pliers and I snipped off a short little length of the paper clip so I could essentially help train myself use this keyboard a little faster. That is one thing that I will stress, is that you will need to spend time, and I mean time in the magnitude of hours, learning how to use this keyboard. One thing I will say though is it's very easy to get a fast typing speed even when you first start. So if you're a person that's in the, the upward, 70, 80, 90 words per minute group, you are going to slow down on this, but you're also going to speed up pretty quick as well once you've mastered the keystrokes. The challenge I've had, other than orienting myself on the F and J keys and learning the shortcuts, I have usually a cheat sheet off to the side, so I remember that double tapping these two keys here, for example, is my backspace. Which one of these is space and enter, and which one of these I have to hold down to get the other section of keys. Like, there's a lot to learn, and not having the pictograms, unfortunately, for me, and I think for a lot of you that would be picking this up, that will be kind of a stumbling block because you're used to learning by seeing what's directly in front of you. Another point that's worth noting is that these keys are right up against one another, so if you are not precise with your key strikes, you will accidentally press two of the keys, and because the actuation force is so light, you will get a mispress. And that, in my tests with myself and a few other people that I've asked to use this keyboard, did frustrate them a bit. So you need to come down exactly where you want on that key, because there is no distance between them. They're right up against one another. The only other thing that I'll say as a bit of a, I even hesitate to use the word detractor, is your keys are not diagonally offset like they are on a standard QWERTY keyboard, where some keys are like diagonally off to one side. Like, these are in essentially perfect rows. And because of that, if you think that you're going to go down here and strike the C key, you end up striking either two keys or the V key. Like, there's a lot of little quirks like that essentially you have to break your training scars of using a traditional keyboard. With all that being said, ladies and gentlemen, I'll say two things. G Heavy Industries knows how to build a fantastic feeling keyboard. I'll also say that this keyboard might not be the keyboard for me. However, if they made a more traditional style keyboard with these switches and these caps, oh boy, like, talk about a contender. Like, to me, that would be kind of a dream keyboard. But I also understand that that's not the crowd that they're necessarily shooting for with these designs. They're shooting for people that want to use keyboards like this. Like, if you haven't seen their website and some of the crazy keyboard designs that they've got, I'll post some pictures here. It's incredible stuff. I don't know how practical it is for people like me to use, but there's clearly a market for this, and this is high quality stuff. And you know what? If you're a tinkerer and you don't want this to come pre-assembled and you want a bag of parts, they'll do that for you too. In fact, they'll do it for you at a cheaper rate than the pre-manufactured ones. So there's lots of options to check out. I'm going to keep trying to learn how to use this thing better, and I will report back any progress that I make. I do want to thank G Heavy Industries for sending me this keyboard to test. This isn't something that I purchased with my own money, but we did get talking, and they wanted to send it to me to give it a try, and here's the bottom line. It's a fantastically built product. It's got a learning curve that might not be for everyone, but if you're looking for one of these and you want it to be well built, like, these are your guys. They've done a fantastic job, and I can't say that enough. I think that this could be used as a personal defense tool when push comes to shove. It's that well built. At any rate, ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoy this sort of content. If you do, I'm going to encourage you to do the big four. Please like the video, share, subscribe, and hit that notification bell so the next time I update you on this or other strange keyboards, you'll be the first to know about it. Thank you so much, and I'll see you next time.